Welcome to our interview series with WellNest Global and international holistic experts, Consilience Exploring New Ways of Thriving. You can find this series on our YouTube channel at WellNest Global. And I'm Valarie Angle Roberts, your hostess today. Our intention with this program is to empower our audience with tools, wisdom, resources to assist you in your journey of thriving in your life. And our guest today is health and wellness professional, Shelly Jefferis. Welcome, Shelly.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Shelly and I have been having a good time just chatting and getting to know each other in the last few minutes as we prepared to come on here today. And I'm so excited for everyone else now to get to meet you and learn a little bit more about you. So why don't you start off by telling folks around the world, who you are, what you're about, your interests, that kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I actually live in Southern California currently. I've been in California pretty much actually my entire life. I'm married with three amazing children, and they are older. We are almost empty nesters, which is hard to believe. Our youngest is a senior in high school, and it's been quite the journey. Motherhood is like one of my very most favorite jobs in the world. And so we have three. My oldest, my daughter, is going to be 25, and then we have two boys, 23 and 17. And that has been a huge portion of my life, of course. And but through the years prior to becoming a mom, I became involved in health and wellness when I was pretty young. I started working in a gym when I was 16. So I started this journey of health and wellness really, actually, I like to say in junior high is where my love of fitness started, and it never went away. And so I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for my PE teacher that I had, because she was the one that created that positive attitude towards it for me personally. And that became a really important part of my journey, because I did go on to teach college for 30 plus years. I did teach elementary school for many years. And so I always had that in my mind to create a positive attitude towards fitness, nutrition, our health, rather than that negative, especially when it comes to the physical aspect of it and the fitness aspect. If we have and we grow up with that negative attitude towards it, then we're not going to want to participate. So that always stuck with me and wanting to share that message. So 35 plus years in the health and wellness industry, went on to get my degree and teach college. And then along the way, I've always had an entrepreneur spirit. So I've always been involved in my own business. When my babies were babies, I was the franchise owner locally of my area for a company called Stroller Strides. So we worked out outdoors with the strollers and the babies and the tubing, and had just a wonderful time. Just created a really great community of moms and babies and families during that time. Went on to be in charge of the physical education program for my children's elementary school. And then during that time, I was introduced to a global health and wellness company, which I'm still partnered with. And then from there, I've just kind of expanded into some other areas of speaking and teaching and coaching, which we can touch upon in a little bit. But it's just been a part of my life. So when it comes to interests, I like to run. I like to work out and lift weights. And then I also love to read and just enjoy nature, be outdoors. As we were talking earlier, my favorite place to be is the beach. So I like to get there as often as I can. And then love being with my family. That's like the number one thing for me. And then hanging with our fur babies. We currently have two dogs and a cat. So that's my little bit of my morning time, is sitting with them. So that kind of covers some of my interests in what I'm about.
Awesome. We have a lot in common. The kid thing, the fur babies, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the beach for sure.
Right? Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when I was younger and some of my friends who had older kids were going through this whole empty nest time and whatever. And I was just like, bring it on. I'm ready to like have some sleep and stuff. But when it gets here, it's a whole different
It's a
it's
whole
a whole
different
different
story.
dynamic, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I like to let moms know who maybe are getting ready to go into it, which, I mean, your oldest is out of the house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when we did this with our daughter, we had, it was almost like we were blindsided. I mean, we were so just, we took her to Oregon, we drove her to Oregon, and on the way, and you can relate, I'm sure, and any other moms listening who have taken their children to college, I know how hard it is, right? And we dropped her off in Oregon, and driving home 12 hours between myself, my husband, and my youngest son, one of us at any given moment was crying. So we'd stop, one would start, which would start the next and the next. I mean, we literally stopped. I'll never forget it. We stopped for lunch, and literally we just like, what are we doing? We stopped and got lunch. And we just sat there and basically we're like, we don't even want this. We're like emotional. We're like, let's just get back on the road and get home. So I kind of like to share with moms like the reality of it, because it wasn't shared with me. And I had one friend I'll never forget who told me after the fact that yes, it's heartbreaking. And I'm like, you're the only person who actually said it like it is, right? She said it like it is. And I wish I would have been kind of more prepared going into it, but it's okay. You know, you go through it, you have to go through it. And I mean, I'll never forget the next day, my husband was like, why can't she just stay home? So it's kind of like, this is the journey, right? This is how it goes. This is what we prepare them for, as hard as it is, but then we see them thriving, and it's always just such a blessing to see them on their journeys, however difficult it might be when they're not at home, but
Right. Yeah,
right.
that is. I think it's great that we're kind of at a period of time. I feel like I always like to look for the silver linings, and I'm like, we're in a time in our culture where we're really talking about more of these things that just kind of were pushed down, in the past, like it just is what it is. But like, well, it's okay to acknowledge it. It's okay to acknowledge that, hey, this might be tough, this transition, um,
Mhm.
from having everyone safely in your nest to some of them flying out. So
For
yeah, I think
sure,
it's
for
good.
sure. Yeah, and I always make a point, and I've shared this too, just from, I guess, more of a self-care standpoint. I learned early on just to give myself grace and give myself like a day to just be. Like, if I want to just cry, do I want to just lay on the couch? What do I want to do? So that has helped me. So I like to share that with other moms and dads too. I mean, I don't want to leave them out. My husband was like heartbroken, and so I think that just giving yourself time and grace to go through the emotions is important.
Yeah, I love that. Grace and compassion with yourself. Like when you love yourself and, even your weak points, life is better. You have that
Yeah,
with you.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit more. You started to talk a little bit about how you've just always enjoyed that, holistic wellness aspect of life, and especially being outside and physical fitness and things like that. So, how did you kind of know, like, this is what I want to focus my work on? And, some of the inspiration behind, your drive to share that with others, especially women and mothers, and help them on their journeys. When did you kind of know you could be a support and a guide and an expert to kind of help other women?
Well, I think it started way back when I started working in the gyms, and just somehow it was just innate. I don't know that I just always loved working with people, always social, loved helping them just with their health, and just improving their lives overall, which I've become even very much more passionate about that in later years. And I realized, I think back to when I was working on my college degree, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. And it was really interesting because when I was working on my undergraduate and I was getting close to graduating, I knew I wanted to continue my education, and it was either get my teaching credential or get my master's degree. And I ended up getting a graduate assistantship at the college where I was that I was attending. So I ended up working there, teaching there at the time same time I was getting my degree, my master's degree, which meant then I was able to go on and teach college and community college teaching, which was wonderful. Um, and so that was really, again, I just recently retired from that. I did it for over 30 years. So I just loved just sharing information with people, educating them, raising awareness. And that still is such a huge passion of mine to this day. And so that, I would say, is probably where it started. And then it's evolved, as I became a mom myself. When it comes to my personal health, one other area that I really am on a mission to share with others is what are we putting in our bodies? What are we exposing ourselves to? Being aware of the chemicals, the toxins, doing the best that we can to reduce that exposure. It's never going to be perfect, of course, but I always come from the standpoint, whatever we can do that's in our control, and but enjoy ourselves along the way. That's something I will always say. I'm not like regimen and strict and you can't have this, you can't do that, you can't eat that. I mean, that's not where I come from, but more of just being aware and making the best choices we can each day. And when I became pregnant with my daughter, I became a lot more diligent at looking at labels, reading labels. What am I putting in my body? And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, look at this, like artificial ingredients, artificial coloring. I couldn't believe it at the time, which, going back, I'm thinking, well, I had a health background and wellness. So, but somehow I feel like I was looking at labels, but I guess I wasn't reading them as much as I could have or should have been doing until that point came. So it was that point that I became more aware of that. And then, fast forward after having my children, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And then we lost her months later. And that, again, I remember that being another moment where I went, okay, started becoming a little bit more aware of what am I using to clean my home? What products am I using? And becoming aware of that. And then 10 years later, my dad died. He had various illnesses. And so, I look at both of them, and as heartbreaking as those experiences were, and as much as I miss them, both of those experiences also caused me to be even more passionate, motivated to do something, more of a drive to go, what is going on? Because I personally believe that what we're doing, our environment, what we're eating, what we're putting on our skin, all these things that we're being exposed to are contributing to what we are dealing with as far as illness and disease. So I always talk about preventative measures, do what we can now, because that's my big why. What can I do for my health, my family, so that my kids don't have to see me go through what I saw my parents go through? And I know it's not a guarantee. It's not 100% that won't happen, but I always come from that standpoint. Let's do what can I do to be my healthiest, to be my best for my family. But like I say, still, have fun, enjoy along the way, without being too stringent, too strict. So,
Yeah. A couple of little things that I thought of while you were telling your story, and it is sometimes those difficult, the hardest parts of life that ignite something in us to help move us another step forward. So we can choose to either run away and go within and fester, or we can say, what can I learn from this? And how can I use this to move forward? And so, yeah, I think, again, like we're in this very like awakening time where people are starting to do that. Cause like you, I started out in like nutrition and dietetics. I did that for a couple of years before I switched over to education myself. And then and went to elementary education, but it took me another 10 years to really be like, wait a minute, is this even food? This thing that we're eating what is this stuff in
yeah.
here? And like something clicked and was like, okay, food grows on plants, or, comes from animals, or that's food.
Mhm.
I look on some of these processed packages, there's nothing in there that I recognize besides maybe potato starch or tapioca starch or something, cornstarch, whatever. So yeah, it's that awareness. The more we can talk about it and help educate people like yourself who are experts in the field, can have an educated voice on it. The more people can hear about this and have an opportunity to learn from someone who knows, the sooner we'll see, I believe, too, a major health improvement in the world and our country in particular. So yeah, thank you for doing that work, because it's shocking how long it can take us to kind of come to realize that. you
It
know?
really is. It really is. And as you're talking, I'm thinking of two. There was one graph I remember sharing with my students in college where this graph showed the increase in like ADHD and some of these different, things we're dealing with young children. And it was matching the use of pesticides and chemicals. It was like almost like identical on this graph. And, I see things like that. And I'm like, this, we need to like kind of wake up to what's going on here. Like seriously. And I don't want to ever negate that, it's ADHD is not a real thing. It's not that at all. And there's always a place for medicine. And yeah, there's definitely illness. However, how much of it could we be preventing? How much of it is it coming from these other things that we're being exposed to? Because I really think that, for so many years we're told, that it's genetics. I feel like there's more and more coming out now that it's not so much genetics. There's a genetic component. I mean, don't get me wrong. However, I guess we can think of in elementary school, like, I don't know about you, but I don't know if any of the kids had diabetes, but then when I was teaching elementary school, we had about maybe 3, not a lot, but still having that start at such a young age.
Yeah.
What's going on? We've seen things change and more illnesses increase over the years. So what's going on? That's
Yeah,
kind
the
of
allergies,
the
different,
allergies is another one.
yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Right. Yeah. When I started teaching, we had a lot of students who had particularly peanut allergies, but there were other things too. And, we had to be so stringent and there were posters everywhere. And I was like, I never had that. I never knew anyone like that growing up. And I thought, what is changing?
Right?
So yeah, it took me a little while to come full circle and for it to click. But yeah, like you start questioning things, and then it just kind of causes you to question and then investigate and start being your own. Checking in with yourself and being your own source of determining and discerning like what's good for you and what you want to bring into your family life and
Yeah.
guide.
And
And
that's
then,
the thing. It's going to be different, right? For each family, um, it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes I'm out and about. Like I was at an event over the weekend with my girlfriend and I'm looking at some of the stuff, some of the food. And I'm like, oh, and now the other part to this whole craziness is looking at labels and seeing how many things now are bioengineered and
mhm.
have bioengineered ingredients. And so literally here I am, there's a big old bag of pretzels on the counter and I whip it around and look at the label. I'm like, sure enough, bioengineered ingredients. I'm like, so again, it's sometimes too, you want to, I feel like I want to like tread lightly, but at the same time go, look at this. Because you don't want to I don't want to like be like, it's not about shaking my finger at anyone in any way, shape, or form. It's saying, hey, start to kind of look and see what's going on and look at this label and look at this product and maybe find something that's an alternative or compare when we're shopping what's the better option. And that's what I like to share with people too is just some of the products and the companies that I've discovered because I'm always not so much on the hunt, but I'm always kind of aware and like if I see something that's clean, non-toxic, I'm like, well, let me check that out. Whether it's cleaning products or, skincare or a food product, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, same thing here. Just got to be really mindful. And people come from all different places. I had someone yesterday, a group of us were talking, and she had convinced herself that it was more difficult and expensive to eat healthier. And
Mm.
when I like pulled out my little weekly plan, we go to the farmers market every week, and we're very fortunate. I know we don't live in a food desert where I live. Like I know so many farmers; they know me by name, and we can get you know, pastured eggs, pork, beef, chicken, all kinds of produce,
That's so
locally grown
awesome.
fruit, vegetables, and then organic. And I know who made it. I know who grew it. I know where it's grown. And so it's really inexpensive. And what we spend there is so much less than what we were spending when we would go to the store. And especially when we would buy lots of that stuff that was kind of like, you know, I call like filler foods. You eat it, it fills you up temporarily, but then you're hungry again because there wasn't really any nutritional value to it. So your body's like, I need minerals, I need vitamins, I need
Right?
nutrition. And so
Yeah.
you're hungry again. And yeah, it's just so much more filling. And you map it out, but people get so used to hearing, oh, well, it's expensive to eat well. It's hard to eat well. It's hard to plan it out. But actually, I found the opposite. Like now that we have this routine, it's so much simpler and easier, and it costs so much less. So,
Mhm.
sometimes we question our own beliefs, right? And be
Sure.
like, why do I believe this? Is it because my grandma said it and my mom said it and the TV says it? Like, why am I believing this? Maybe I need to check and see, is this
It's
really true?
so it's so true. I used to, I used to share with my students, like I used to share with them that, you know, y- you can find reasonably priced healthy foods. It just might take a little bit of time and investigation because I would tell them, I go to a couple of different stores and I go and find out what's on sale and, stock up on certain things that are on sale at the time. And I was joking with someone. Well, my daughter, when my daughter was home last, I had some of my organic cream in the freezer. She's like, Why is the cream in the freezer?" I said, "Well, it was on sale and I stocked up, so I'm putting it in the freezer because now it's like doubled in price than what it was like 2 years ago." Um, so there's that, and I just think that, like you're saying, you can definitely do it in a healthy way. And it's funny because I know that's a common theme that it's expensive. And I think back, like you're saying, the simplicity of it all. Years ago, when I started partnering with the health and wellness company that I'm with, all of a sudden it became so much simpler back then. And I think about it now, and you probably do the same. Like we have a complete meal replacement shake that is really less than $4 for a full meal. You can't now go out to a restaurant and have a meal that's really less than $10, right? So it's just, once you get involved and you get into the routine, and like you're saying, the simple routine, and you start to realize not only are we saving money, but with our health, we're saving money, right? We're not having to, I mean, I don't want to make any medical claims, but truly, when you're taking better care of yourself, you tend to not have to go to the doctor as much. And so you're saving right there. So, but that just takes time for people to realize, I feel like, it's the initial going, oh, it's expensive, but it's the consistency and the time. That's when you can look back and go, okay, I'm actually saving money by what I'm doing here. So it's so important. And thank you for the reminder about farmers market, because I keep thinking I want to go and I keep forgetting on Sundays after church, we need to go to farmers market. So that's important. That's an important place to go and get some good fresh produce for sure.
Yeah, and it's so good to have a relationship with your farmer. It's just really
Yes,
thing. You build community, and it feels really great. And then, if you can't get certain things at the store, sometimes when you have a relationship with your farmer, they'll have your back, and they'll be
right,
like,
right,
"Back up."
right. For
So that's
sure.
always a good thing too. So talk a little bit about, I know you've got some things coming up. You said you were telling me before we got started that you've got a master class that you work on in the fall, and then you also have an 8-week program coming up in the new year. So let's talk a little bit about those opportunities, because I'm sure some folks watching might want some more information on that.
Yes, sure. I have a master class that I have created. It's healthy and clean living in a toxic world. And basically, it's just a way for me to, again, educate and bring awareness around this topic to others, and to share a little bit of my personal journey and my personal story that led me to really dive into all of this material. And so I feel like, with any kind of a course, it just condenses years of my research and companies and products that I've tried. So I like to share that with others. So I go into talking about and highlighting some of the different chemicals that we're seeing in different areas, some of the more popular ones, how to avoid them, what are some tips we can do to reduce our exposure. Again, it's never going to be 100%, but what steps can we take to reduce that exposure? And then I also provide a few of the companies and products that I've discovered. And I really feel like it's, this is going to be something that's, I'm targeting moms. I'm saying, moms, this is important information for yourself, for your families. But that doesn't mean it's not great for anyone and everyone to know. But I think coming from a mom's perspective, I look at certain things and go, okay, I would have liked to have known this when my babies were babies. I grabbed those, goldfish crackers. I grabbed some of those snacks that we know now are, oh, maybe not the best. But again, new moms, and you see what everybody else is doing. And now fast forward all these later, decades later, you realize that was maybe not the best choice, which is okay. But that's again where I want to help moms and families just make some better choices for themselves, and so they can be healthier and just have more energy and live a quality of life. That's really where it's at. That's kind of my whole goal. Let's feel good and have energy and joy and have a clear mind, and just do the best that we can. So that's the masterclass. I'm going to be teaching that in November. So let's see, what's today? Today's October 26th, is it? 25th, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's the
So
25th, so just around the corner.
it's crazy. So I'll be doing that in the middle of November. So anyone is welcome to reach out, and I can get them the link for that masterclass. And then I have a wellness program for moms. It's Moms Who Flourish, and it's an 8-week wellness program, just a complete wellness. The goal and the purpose is to provide information, education, and inspiration to moms, to provide a community of support to help them prioritize their health and their wellness and their self-care. And I hear a lot of like, I don't have time, or there's the mom guilt, or there's just not the clarity. What should I do? What should I do for exercise? What should I do for my nutrition? And then, like I mentioned, I was telling you earlier, it will be meeting weekly. It's weekly coaching sessions, and then also bringing in experts. I have a gal who's amazing with hormone health, and that's a really important topic, especially for us older moms, and gut health, and some of the really top areas that we're learning about these days. And so it'll be a combination of all of that. And again, it's the community, it's the support, it's the accountability, and just providing that experience for moms so that they can really put themselves as a priority. We kind of lose that along the way at times, and it kind of goes off to the side or even the back burner. And so my goal is to help change that around.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's a community and doing things in a group. It's so powerful. The accountability and it's not you're like, oh, well, I can go Google, what are some healthy foods, or I can Google it. It's not about the fact sheet. It's not about the Googling the random knowledge that, for any question, there's probably 10,000 answers that say
So
20
true.
different things, right? It's the wisdom of, decades of experience and people who have gone before you kind of helping you move forward. That's really where the beauty of your expertise and professional experiences comes in, and just helps people shave off tons of stress and worry and trying to figure it out on their own. Plus having that community to connect with. A lot of, my closest friends are, women I've connected with in experiences like yours.
It's
Um,
Yes, it's so true, because I even think back to when I was running my business, my stroller strides business, and I feel like I've come full circle, because I look back to that experience in that community with other moms, and many of them are still, they formed best friends in that experience, and they still are, and even the kids are still friends. And so, and I'll run into some of the moms around town, and it's just, my heart is just so happy, because all these beautiful women, moms I got to meet through that experience, and and still I'm friends with all these years later. I mean, we're talking 20 plus years later, right? So it's really amazing. But to your point of the community, that's a really, really big part of this for me, is creating that community. I know that, we lost a little bit of that over recent years, and I just feel like it's always important, but it's more important now than ever. And that's a really, really big proponent for this to be moving forward and to grow it as that community. And my goal is to create in-person events. I did put a wellness event on in person just right before the country shut down. And my goal was to continue and to grow that. And things kind of got a little bit pushed aside with everything that went on in the world. But I know the value of that, and being in the room and being in person. And so that's another goal that I plan to move forward with the moms who flourish, as well as to get in person, bring in speakers, and just continue that support and community and grow that community. So that's the plan.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I want to give you just a moment. Is there any, let's imagine we've got people watching, they're new to this, they're like starting to second guess, like, what's in my cabinet? What should I be giving my kid this or this? And they might, start to feel a little bit of regret or mom guilt or overwhelm, like, what would you say to these viewers? It can be you too, guys. We're kind of talking about moms today, but it's really for everybody. If it just seems kind of like overwhelming, you don't know where to even begin, what would you tell them?
I love that question. So thank you for asking that. I will always say, just take a couple products at a time and just start to kind of look at the label. You don't want to try and revamp everything all at once, because that's not realistic, right? So I actually have a program that I offer to my moms. It's called Purge Your Pantry, where we go through with either through Zoom or in person and just kind of go through everything and offer alternatives if necessary. And it's in no way to shame anyone or say, how can you have this in your pantry? It's meant to just provide information and alternative products or alternative snacks or foods, whatever it might be. So it's really fun to do that. Like, and then I just offer what I've discovered. Again, that's really what this is about. What have I discovered that are kind of healthier, cleaner options? And then I provide those suggestions where needed and where necessary.
That's really awesome. Yeah. So start small, start with one or two things at a time. And then it's good to know that you're there if somebody's like, I need help. I don't even know.
Yeah. And I'll tell people too, like someone I actually had, it's so cute. One of my girlfriend's husband the other day, he texted me a picture of this energy drink. He says, is this the one I can drink? And I said, send me a picture of the label, right? Sends it to me. And I said, and there's artificial sweetener, right? I said, nope. He goes, darn. I go, so I'm always like, hey, if there's something you want me to look at, feel free to send it to me, So I thought that was kind of cute. I mean, he was actually reaching out and asking and took pictures of it and everything. And I was like, sorry.
Yeah, some of that stuff can be pretty nasty. I mean, yeah.
Truly, yes.
Really, just because it's out there doesn't mean it's okay. Yeah, my son is getting into like working out and going to the gym and stuff. He's in sports, and he's always wanting to buy, pre-workouts and protein powder. And I'm like, do not bring anything home. I will help you with this, because there's like so many little things that you're looking for. Red flags, and then also beneficial things too. So
For sure. And I don't like to say just like make a blanket statement, but most of the store-bought supplements like that are not the best. And it's cute when you talk about your son, because when my older son first had his first year in college playing D1 baseball, the day before he was having his drug test, he texted me to make sure he was okay with what he was taking from our health and wellness company. I said, honey, you're going to be fine, because our performance line is all approved and clean and safe for athletes, professional, D1, high school. So I'm like, you're going to be good. And sure enough, he was. But I thought it was really cute. He was like, am I going to be okay from my protein powder and everything? You're going to be okay.
I'm
So
sure some of the other guys were wondering too, and just didn't have that assurance, So
yeah, and that's the thing, right? How much is out there, and they claim it to be natural, clean, and then it turns out it's not. And that's heartbreaking when, you
yeah,
have an athlete or anyone taking a product thinking it's okay and safe, and then to find out later that it's not.
yeah,
And you never know the consequences of that, especially as an athlete. And
right.
so you have to be so careful. And so I've been very grateful to have that for my boys, to be able to, because they need that. They're, as you, like your son, post workout, and being able to have something that's clean. So
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you, Shelly. I've had a lovely time chatting with you today and spending some time with you.
yes,
I'm sure that everyone has learned a lot. And
thank you. I'm so
yeah,
happy to do this. I know we've had to reschedule a few times, and it's like it finally happened. And so I'm really grateful, and I thank you for taking the time and doing this with me as well, and having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, and grateful for what you're doing out in the world.
Thank
Uh,
you. Yeah, you as well.
thank you.
Definitely.
And for those of you watching, we're just going to wrap it up here now and say goodbye. But I want you to be sure to um, look in the description here below, because that's where I'm going to put all of the information for how you can get in touch with Shelly. You can follow her on, her social media. You can ask for more information, and maybe enroll in the masterclass or the 8-week program, or maybe hit her up for some help with the pantry too. So
Definitely.
whatever it
Yeah.
is, go ahead and make sure we have that in here. So check that out. Make sure you're subscribing so you don't miss opportunities to meet wonderful people like Shelly, around the world, experts in holistic wellness. And we will see you next time on Consilience at WellNest Global. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.